All right, strap in, everyone, because today we are going deep, deep, deep into the world of Arrakis, into Frank Herbert's Dune Saga.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not messing around here. We are talking about all the really thought-provoking stuff, all the big
Yeah,
ideas that make Dune more than just, spaceships and sandworms.
absolutely.
You've given us books 1 through 6 for this deep dive.
Lots of color.
So we've got a lot to explore, a lot of really fascinating material to dig into.
Dune is one of those stories that just keeps giving you more, keeps giving you new insights every time you go back and reread it.
Yeah.
It's amazing how Herbert just tackles these huge themes like politics and religion and ecology.
Oh, yeah.
The dangers of charismatic leadership.
Charismatic leadership. Yeah, that's a great place to start, I think.
Yeah.
Because the big question for us today is, how does Herbert use this story, this epic story of Paul Atreides, to show us both the kind of the magnetism, the allure,
Right.
and potential pitfalls of a powerful leader?
Right. And it's not just a straightforward, hero's journey.
Yeah.
There are consequences to Paul's rise to power.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
We first meet Paul as this young noble, kind of sheltered on the planet Caladan.
Right.
But things change real quick when his family lands on Arrakis.
Oh, yeah.
It's like trial by fire, almost.
Absolutely. And one of the first trials he faces is that Gom Jabbar test.
Oh, yeah.
This brutal introduction to the Bene Gesserit, this powerful sisterhood
Yeah.
with their own agenda.
It is an intense scene.
Oh, yeah.
He's forced to endure this agonizing pain.
Yeah.
What does this test actually tell us about Paul and the kind of the forces that are at play in this whole story?
So it reveals a lot.
Yeah.
Remember, the Bene Gesserits are searching for this Kwisatz Haderach figure.
Right.
This superhuman who can access these abilities beyond, normal humans.
Right.
The Gom Jabbar is designed to push a person to their absolute limit.
It reveals their potential.
So it's not just about enduring pain, it's about mental control, right? It's about
transcending
their instincts.
How many of us could honestly keep our hand in a box of simulated fire?
Not me.
No, me neither.
No.
So Paul's response suggests that he's different. He's special.
Right.
But it also, I think, gives us a glimpse into the Bene Gesserit's ambition to kind of shape humanity's evolution.
They're playing the long game here.
Yeah, they are. And it's a little unnerving.
Yeah.
Let's talk about pushing limits to the extreme. That's where the Fremen come in.
Right.
These desert dwellers. I mean, talk about masters of survival.
Yeah.
Their whole culture is built around adapting to this planet where water is the most precious resource.
It makes you think, like, the Fremen have mastered these skills like water conservation, environmental adaptation that we're just starting to grapple with here on Earth. Herbert was really ahead of his time with a lot of these ecological themes.
The still suits are the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
I mean, recycling every single drop of moisture. It makes you think.
Right.
What could we achieve if we applied that level of ingenuity to our own resource challenges?
Definitely. It's forcing us to confront our own relationship with nature and the impact of our choices on the environment.
Yeah.
They have so much to teach us about living in balance with our planet.
Yeah, and it's not just about survival for them either. They've built this whole culture around it.
Right.
These unique practices and beliefs.
Right.
It's really fascinating how Herbert blends those physical and spiritual aspects of their existence.
It's crucial to their identity.
Yeah.
Remember, this is a people who have been exploited for generations.
Right.
Their connection to Arrakis, to the spice, is fundamental to who they are.
And then you have Paul entering this world. Talk about a culture shock.
Oh, yeah.
You go from this sheltered life on Caladan to becoming Muad'Dib, the leader of the Fremen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty epic transformation.
It is, absolutely. He's shaped by the Fremen, by their prophecies, by their beliefs. But there's also another element at play. Spice melange.
Yes.
Yeah.
The spice.
The lifeblood of Arrakis.
It's this valuable commodity that everyone's fighting over, everyone wants to control. But it's more than just a resource, though, right? It's practically like a psychedelic drug.
Precisely. Melange can heighten your awareness, expand consciousness.
Wow.
And it can even unlock prescient abilities.
Yeah.
And Paul, exposed to the spice,
Yeah.
he's changed forever.
So his prescience, his ability to see these glimpses of the future, is that tied to the spice?
Yes.
Okay, so that adds a whole other layer to this idea of destiny and control, right?
Right.
It's not just about who he is, but also what he's exposed to.
Exactly. It enhances his innate abilities, but it comes at a cost.
Okay.
Spice is addictive, both physically and psychologically,
Right.
and it can cloud judgment.
So even with these incredible powers, Paul is still vulnerable.
Yes.
He's not this all-powerful figure.
He's human.
He's got these internal struggles, these things that he's contending with.
Right. He's wrestling with that burden of prescience.
Yeah.
Trying to navigate the future he sees while grappling with the choices he makes in the present.
Almost like he's trapped then, right?
Yeah.
Does he even have free will if he can see the future? Is he just kind of playing out a predetermined script?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Huh.
Herbert doesn't give us easy answers.
Right.
He makes us think about those complexities of fate versus free will.
Yeah.
And that's where things start to get really interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got this young man, right, wrestling with these extraordinary abilities,
Right.
this complex web of prophecies, and a whole lot of spice.
Yeah.
It seems like a recipe for some serious power struggles, right?
Oh, definitely.
What do you think?
Remember, the Fremen have these ancient prophecies
Right?
about a messiah, a leader who will guide them to freedom.
Yeah.
They're already primed to see Paul as this special figure, someone who can fulfill their hopes and their dreams.
So he kind of walks into this situation with a target on his back a little bit.
Yeah, I mean...
Everyone's got their own agenda, their
Right.
own ideas about what should happen on Arrakis.
Exactly. And it's not just the Fremen either.
Right.
You got the Harkonnens, the brutal rulers of Arrakis before the Atreides arrive.
Right.
Driven by greed and a thirst for revenge.
Baron Harkonnen, oh my God.
Yeah.
Talk about a power-hungry tyrant.
Yeah, he's obsessed with destroying House Atreides.
Yeah.
He really wants to take them down.
He is one creepy character.
He embodies that corrupting nature of power.
Yeah.
He's cruel, he's manipulative, and he's utterly ruthless.
Yeah.
He serves as this stark contrast to Duke Leto,
Right.
Paul's father, who represents a more noble, even idealistic approach to leadership.
Yeah, it's like this classic battle between good and evil,
Right.
but with a lot more nuance to it.
Yeah, definitely.
And in the middle of all this, you have Paul trying to figure out who to trust, what path to take.
Remember, he's still young.
Yeah.
He's learning, he's adapting,
Yeah.
and he's making choices that will have huge consequences.
It's a lot of pressure for anyone, let alone a teenager with the weight of the future on his shoulders.
Exactly.
Speaking of pressure, what about Paul's mother?
Lady Jessica.
Lady Jessica, yeah, she's a Bene Gesserit, but she also defied her orders by giving birth to Paul.
Right.
What does that tell us about her?
Jessica's a fascinating character.
She is.
She's a master of manipulation, a master of control,
Yeah.
but she's also fiercely protective of her son.
Right.
Her decision to have Paul, instead of the daughter the Bene Gesserit ordered, throws a wrench in everyone's plans.
Yeah, she's always walking this tightrope, it seems like, between her loyalty to the Bene Gesserit and her love for her son.
It must be incredibly difficult to navigate those competing loyalties.
And she's the one who introduces him to the Bene Gesserit ways.
Right.
It's exactly all those mental disciplines, the voice control, the heightened awareness.
Right. She gives him this secret weapon.
Yeah, it's like she gives him a secret weapon.
Yeah.
There's that scene where she confronts a group of Fremen.
Oh, yeah?
And she uses just her voice and her presence to command their respect.
It's such a power move.
It is. It makes me think about, like, you know, how we use our voices to influence others, even in everyday situations.
Absolutely.
Like, we may not be Bene Gesserit,
Right.
but we all have that ability to use our voices in certain ways.
It highlights the Bene Gesserit's influence, their ability to operate behind the scenes and shape events to their own ends.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that power doesn't always come from brute force.
Right.
Sometimes it's about subtle manipulation and knowing how to wield influence.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the Fremen, the Bene Gesserit, the Harkonnens, all these powerful forces kind of vying for control. And then, of course, there's the spice, which seems to be the key to everything.
Right.
It's what makes interstellar travel possible, right?
It is. That's why Arrakis is so important.
Okay.
And that brings us to another key player in all of this, the Spacing Guild.
Oh, yeah.
They control interstellar travel, which gives them tremendous leverage.
I mean, you could think of them as like the ultimate gatekeepers of the galaxy, right?
Exactly.
It was like they're the intergalactic FedEx,
right,
but with a monopoly on the whole universe.
Exactly. And it's all thanks to the spice.
Okay.
They're navigators, these mutated humans with prescient abilities.
Right.
They need melange to guide these giant spaceships through folded space.
Right.
Without spice, the galaxy grinds to a halt.
So whoever controls the spice controls the flow of trade, communication, everything. It's amazing how interconnected everything is.
Herbert does a brilliant job of showing us how these power dynamics play out on such a grand scale.
Yeah.
He makes us think about how seemingly isolated events can have ripple effects across entire systems.
And Paul figures this out, right?
Yes.
That's kind of where his strategic genius comes in.
He realizes that controlling the spice is the key to breaking the existing power structure.
So he doesn't just want to survive, he wants to actually reshape the whole political landscape.
Exactly. And his understanding of how all these different forces rely on each other, particularly the guild's dependence on spice, gives him the leverage he needs to make his move.
Okay, so he's not just like a warrior or a prophet, he's a master strategist.
Right. He's a chess player.
Yeah.
Who can see multiple moves ahead.
And let's not forget his Fremen upbringing,
Right.
like his understanding of the ecological principles,
Yeah.
of the delicate balance of nature. That plays a role in his strategic thinking, too.
Absolutely. He sees how everything is interconnected.
It's like he's learned to think in terms of these, like, systems, right?
Yeah.
These webs of interconnected relationships.
Yeah, he's playing the long game.
He's not just focused on winning these individual battles.
Right.
And that's what sets him apart from someone like the Baron Harkonnen.
Right.
Who's driven by that short-sighted greed and that vengeance.
Yeah, Paul's vision is much broader. It's more ambitious.
He wants to create a new order, a new way of being.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the players, the power struggles, the spice. But Dune isn't just about political intrigue, right?
Right. It's sci-fi,
Yeah.
but not in the way we're used to.
It's got this whole other layer of technological weirdness to it, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
Herbert deliberately limited certain technologies, like computers,
Okay.
to emphasize the human element.
Interesting.
He wanted to explore how these power dynamics play out in a world where human intuition and strategic thinking are paramount.
So no robots taking over the universe in this story.
Not quite.
Okay.
But you do have mentats,
Right.
these highly trained human computers
Yeah.
who serve as advisors and strategists.
That's so interesting. It's like he's saying that even in a technologically advanced future, human intelligence is still the most valuable resource.
Exactly. And it raises these really interesting questions about the ethics of AI,
Yeah.
about the dangers of relying too heavily on technology,
Right.
and the importance of cultivating human ingenuity.
Yeah, and that critical thinking.
Absolutely.
So we have mentats instead of computers.
Right.
What about weapons? Anything as cool as lightsabers?
Well, no lightsabers.
Okay.
But they do have crysknives.
Oh, yeah.
These incredibly sharp blades made from the teeth of sandworms.
Yeah, they're pretty iconic in Dune.
Yeah, very much so.
Oh, and the sandworms, don't even get me started.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, these giant creatures.
The ultimate symbol of Arrakis.
Yeah, this force of nature that you just can't control.
Right. They're a constant reminder of the power of the natural world.
Right.
Of the need to respect and adapt to the environments.
Yeah, and the Fremen have learned to coexist with them, right?
Yeah.
Even utilize their power.
Yeah.
There's that scene where Paul fights Jameis, the Fremen warrior, in that ritual duel to the death.
It's so intense.
Yeah, it's such an intense scene.
Mhm.
You see the brutality of their culture,
Yes.
but you also see this deep connection to
Right.
their environment.
That duel's a real turning point for Paul.
Yeah.
It's a test of his skills, of his willingness to embrace that Fremen way of life.
It shows the clash of cultures too, right?
Exactly.
Difference between Paul's upbringing
Yeah.
and the harsh realities of Arrakis.
It's like he's shedding his old identity,
Right.
his old way of thinking,
Yeah.
and embracing this new one.
Yeah, that transformation, it's going to have some pretty profound consequences
Oh, yes.
for him, for the Fremen,
Yeah.
and really for the entire galaxy.
It is, yeah. Herbert doesn't shy away from showing the complexities of power
Yeah,
and the difficult choices that leaders have to make.
right.
He forces us to ask ourselves, at what cost does change come?
Right.
And who gets to decide what that cost should be?
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Power struggles, spice, sandworms, Bene Gesserit mind games. We even did a little bit of tech talk.
Yeah.
But what I'm really curious about is the world building.
Right.
Herbert created such a rich and detailed universe in Dune.
It's one of the things that makes Dune so immersive.
Yeah,
He thought of everything.
he really did.
The languages, the cultures, the religions, the ecology. It all feels so real, so intricately woven together.
I mean, it's like he lived on Arrakis himself.
Right.
And just wrote down everything he experienced.
He did a ton of research,
Yeah.
drawing on history, politics, ecology, even linguistics, to create a world that felt authentic and believable.
And the characters, too.
Well, the characters.
They're not just these cardboard cutouts, you know?
Yeah.
They feel real, they're flawed, they're complex.
Even the villains have their own motivations, their own desires.
Right, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Even the villains are believable.
It's Herbert's genius. He doesn't give us these easy answers or these simple heroes and villains. He gives us human beings with their own hosts, their own fears, and their own ambitions.
Yeah.
We can understand them, even empathize with them,
Yeah.
even if we don't always agree with their actions.
I'm thinking of characters like Duncan Idaho, the swordmaster,
Yeah.
who's so fiercely loyal to the Atreides family.
Oh, he's a great character.
And then you have Stilgar, the Fremen leader, who becomes this, like, mentor to Paul. They're both such complex figures.
They embody qualities like honor and loyalty and courage, which really stand out against the backdrop of this political intrigue.
Yeah, and all these power struggles.
Right. They remind us that even in the darkest of times, there's still hope for humanity.
And then you have the darker characters, like the Baron Harkonnen and Fade Rotha, his cunning nephew. They represent that seductive nature of power, that temptation to use it for personal gain, no matter the cost.
It's like Herbert's showing us a whole spectrum of human behavior.
Yeah.
The potential for both great good and great evil that exists within all of us.
It really makes you think, which path would we choose?
Right. It's a big question.
Wow, this is getting pretty deep.
It is.
But it's what makes Dune so much more than just the sci-fi adventure. It's a story about humanity, about the choices we make and those consequences that ripple out from those choices.
And it's a story that keeps unfolding. You know, it reveals these new layers of meaning with each reading.
It's like this endless desert full of hidden depths and unexpected discoveries.
Exactly.
Speaking of unfolding stories, we've only just scratched the surface of Paul's journey here.
Yeah.
He's united the Fremen, he's challenged the Harkonnens, he's gained control of the spice.
Yeah.
But at what cost?
That's the question that looms over everything, right? Power comes with a price.
Yeah.
And we're about to see just how high that price might be.
We're back and ready to kind of wrap up our deep dive into the Dune Saga. We've explored this really intricate world of Arrakis, the complex power dynamics, and of course the rise of Paul Atreides. But the big question I think that's still hanging in the air is Paul a hero? Or have we been watching the birth of a tyrant?
That's the central paradox of Dune, isn't it?
Yeah.
He escapes tyranny only to become the architect of this new and even more widespread form of control.
It is fascinating and a little bit disturbing.
It is, yeah.
It really makes you think about that slippery slope of power, right?
Yeah.
Paul starts out, I mean, with what seemed to be noble goals to free the Fremen, to avenge his family.
Right.
But he ends up unleashing this incredibly bloody jihad that leaves billions dead.
Herbert doesn't shy away from the devastation.
No.
He makes us consider those moral complexities of leadership.
Yeah.
And how that line between liberation and oppression can get blurry.
There's that great quote, I think it's from Dune, it says, greatness is a transitory experience. It is never consistent.
Paul's greatness as a leader seems tied in some ways to the violence that he unleashes.
It's a key insight.
How do we reconcile that?
His prescience, you know, his ability to see the future almost becomes a trap for him.
Oh, interesting.
It leads him down a path he may not have chosen if he hadn't been burdened with this awareness.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, would ignorance have been a blessing in his case?
So maybe free will is an illusion, at least for someone like Paul.
Yeah.
Even with all that power, he's still a prisoner of his own destiny.
Herbert seems to be playing with that idea, that maybe seeing the future limits your choices rather than expanding them.
That's kind of a chilling thought.
It is, yeah.
And what about the people around Paul?
Yeah.
How do they kind of deal with the fallout of his rise to power? I mean, they knew him before the spice, before the jihad.
We see characters like Lady Jessica wrestling with their own choices, their role in shaping Paul's destiny.
She must feel so conflicted.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, she trained him, she empowered him.
Yeah.
But I imagine she also sees the monster that he's becoming.
That internal conflict is another layer to the story.
Yeah.
It shows that even those closest to a leader can get caught in the crosshairs of their ambition.
Right.
And sometimes, the people who love you the most
Yeah.
are the ones who get hurt the worst.
And what about Aaliyah?
Oh, Leah.
Paul's younger sister.
Right.
I mean, she's born with these incredible abilities,
Yeah.
but she's also deeply affected by
Yeah.
all the violence and chaos around her.
Aaliyah's story is particularly tragic.
Yeah.
She's a preborn, meaning she has access to the memories and the personalities of all of her ancestors.
Wow.
Imagine being born with the combined consciousness of thousands of people.
Yeah. That's both a gift and a curse, isn't it?
It is. It gives her this immense power,
Right.
but it also makes her incredibly vulnerable.
She's constantly battling those voices of the past, just
Yeah.
fighting for control of her own identity.
It's such a powerful metaphor for the burdens that we inherit from our families and our history.
So even though the focus of the story is on Paul,
Yeah.
Herbert is showing us that his choices have these ripple effects on everyone around him.
Right. It's not just about one person.
It's a story about power, but it's also a story about the human cost of power.
Exactly. He reminds us that there are no easy answers when it comes to leadership.
Yeah.
That even the most well-intentioned actions can have unintended consequences.
Right.
There's always a cost.
It makes you think about the leaders in our own world, doesn't it?
It does.
The choices they make, the impact they have on our lives.
Right. What are their motivations?
Yeah.
What price are we paying for their decision?
That's the power of Dune, I think.
Yeah.
It's not just a story about this far-off planet.
It's a reflection of our own world, our own struggles with power and ambition,
Yeah.
and the search for meaning.
So what's the takeaway? What does Herbert want us to learn from this epic tale?
I think one of the most important messages is that need for critical thinking.
Okay.
We can't just blindly follow a charismatic leader, no matter how tempting their promises might seem.
We have a responsibility to question, to challenge, to think for ourselves.
Yeah.
Blind faith can lead to very dangerous places, as we see with Paul's jihad.
Absolutely. Herbert reminds us that power is seductive,
Yeah.
and that even those with the best intentions can succumb to its allure.
Right.
He's urging us to be informed, to engage in dialogue,
Yeah.
to make choices based on understanding, not on blind faith or fear.
He's highlighting the importance of balance, too, right?
Yes.
The Fremen understand that so deeply with their relationship to the environment.
He shows us that nature is a force to be respected, not exploited.
Yeah.
The Fremen way of life reminds us that true power comes from understanding and working within natural systems,
Right, not trying to dominate them.
not trying to dominate them.
And even though, the story is full of darkness and violence,
Yeah.
there's also this sense of hope that individuals can make a difference, right?
Right. They can challenge the status quo. They can fight for a better future.
This deep dive has been incredible. I feel like I've learned so much about Dune.
Me too.
About leadership, about the human condition,
Yeah.
and I think even about myself.
That's what great stories do. They make us think.
Yeah.
They make us question.
Yeah.
And they make us grow.
To everyone listening out there, I encourage you, keep exploring Dune.
Yeah.
Don't just accept what you read at face value.
Right.
Dig deeper, ask questions, challenge your own assumptions.
Yeah.
And always remember, the future is not predetermined.
Right.
It's shaped by the choices we make every single day.
The choices we make today create the world we'll live in tomorrow.
Yeah.
Choose wisely.
Yeah.
And thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Dune.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.